live.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to this virtual Hitchin committee that's been conducted with members and officers at various locations communicating via audio, video and online. My name's Ian Albert. I'm chairing the committee this evening. Before the meeting starts, I would like to invite the committee member and scrutiny officer, William Edwards, to explain how proceedings will work and to confirm that members and officers are in attendance. William, over to you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Albert. When your name is called, please indicate your attendance to confirm that the required members, officers and speakers are present and can hear and be heard. I will start with your surnames only, if that's okay. Councillor Albert.
Present.
Councillor Claire Billing.
Here.
Thank you. Councillor Judy Billing.
I'm here, William.
Councillor Bryant.
Here.
Councillor Clark.
Here.
Councillor Collins.
Hello.
Councillor Dennis Harburg.
Here.
Councillor Harwood.
Here.
Councillor Hoskins.
Yeah, here.
Councillor Hewson.
Here.
Councillor Steers-Hanscom.
Present.
We have apologies from Councillor Tart and Councillor Fake.
Here.
Thank you very much. Matthew Hepburn.
Yes, present.
Katie Stadden.
Present.
We have apologies from Mr. Tom Hardy. And is our registered speaker, Chris Kell, present as well?
Chris Kell will be joining the meeting at 7:45 as she has a meeting.
Thank you very much. I will keep an eye out for him. Please note that this meeting is being streamed live onto YouTube and recorded via Zoom. Extracts from the remote and partly remote meetings protocol are included with the agenda, and the full version is available on the Council's website, which includes information regarding live streaming, noise interference, the rules of debate, voting, and Part 2 items. Members are requested to ensure that they are familiar with the protocol. Are there any questions before we start the meeting? Thank you very much. With that, over to you, Councillor Albert.
Thank you, thanks William, and thanks to those who attended Town Talk, and welcome, welcome in a few minutes to Chris, who will be coming to speak to us in the public participation slot. It's good to see so many people at Town Talk this evening and hear from them. In accordance with Council policy, this meeting has been audio recorded as well as filmed. The audio recordings will be available to view on ModGov and the film recorded via the NHDC YouTube channel. Members are reminded to make declarations of interest before an item. The detailed reminder about this and speaking rights is set out on the chair's announcements on the agenda. It's been agreed, and I do want to just, I think, be clear that one of the things I was hoping that we would be able to discuss this evening is Priory Fields, and to have had conversations with committee services today, and we have agreed that in view of the ongoing local plan examination hearings, we won't discuss tonight any matters connected to Priory Fields, but I'm very clear that I do want to have a more detailed discussion at our next meeting about that. We had a good one previously, and we'll definitely make sure that is included as a future agenda item. We were due to have Tom Hardy this evening, but Tom's unfortunately can't attend this evening, so we haven't got a presentation from the bid manager. Probably worthwhile perhaps just saying in the slot, I know that Tom would have certainly have mentioned the grants that are available to local businesses via North Herts Council that have gone live, both to those business rate payers and indeed non-business rate payers who run businesses from home or market traders. Indeed, so obviously the councillors and indeed obviously people listening in on YouTube, if you run a local business, or indeed as councillors, if you can make sure residents and those you're in contact with are aware of the detail that's all included on the North Herts Council website, and those grants are available for the lockdown period to local businesses, and I hope obviously many people will take advantage of that. And I know that as of yesterday, over £500,000 have been paid out to local businesses from the grant pot just in the first week of the it's been live. So that's fantastic, and a help hopefully to many local businesses in Hitchin and the rest of the district. I'm conscious, I assume, Katie, we've not yet got Chris here. Would that be fair to say?
Yeah, Chris will be joining us at 7:45.
Okay, so we may as well then move on. We can obviously progress hopefully fairly quickly through a couple of items. You've got in front of you an information note on Charnwood House, and we did, obviously those of you there will have heard the discussion at the town talk about Charnwood House, and there is a paper coming to cabinet on the 15th of December. I don't know, Keith, Councillor Hoskins, did you want to add anything? I know, to what you said earlier on at town talk, or for the record.
I'm happy to just repeat it for the public record, really,
Yep.
and that is that we are keen to see it retained for community use, if there's a way we can do that, and that will be a subject for cabinet to be discussing next month, and then we'll report back to Hitchin committee, and also I think Simon Harwood and myself are going to arrange a meeting with the Charnwood Trust community organisation that are keen to take on the running of the establishment. So we'll just see if we can pull it all together.
But are there any questions in relation to that? I mean, I think the main thing I'd probably add just from the chair is that I think that would be good to get a sort of a more detailed and further discussion at our next meeting around that. I think, but also I think particularly, and I'm sure this will be picked up probably in the cabinet paper, that obviously the importance of that wider consultation with residents of Hitchin around the proposals and so on, and I'm sure that will be taken on board, and I can see Keith's nodding around that. So I think that the role of the committee, this committee, and of course of local residents around the use of what is a really important building for the community, and we'll make sure that's picked up at a future meeting. Simon, I've got a question on that.
Yeah, no, it's not really a question, Chair. I think it's just obviously a statement, as Councillor Hoskins says, that thank you for inviting me along to be in that meeting with the Charnwood team. Obviously, as we said in the town talk, but to repeat for the public record, I did attend the AGM and listen to some of the things they were talking about within that. And I had sort of raised initial discussions with Councillor Hoskins about the potential of lottery grants and so forth to help with any projects going forwards. And I'm just conscious that colleagues on the call here this evening have experience of lottery grants with respect to the play park or the water park. I forget which activity it was we bid in. So if anybody does have history of lottery grants and the application process, I would be very grateful to hear from them about the highlights and lowlights of how to do that.
Good. Sam?
In direct response to that, the council, I believe, does have experience of lottery grants because it got a lottery grant for the town hall and museum project. So somebody in Gurnon Road knows how to do it.
Yeah, fair point. Anyone else? Judy.
Also, long before that, for the Howard Garden Park area, which was a very proud lottery scheme. So yes, there is some history there, which I'm sure could be dug up.
Yep. No, thanks for that, colleagues. I don't think but certainly we will make sure that we'll pick this up as a further discussion item at our next meeting in March. Which takes us. I think if I can pick up before we move any of the sort of public participation. Baz will take the next item, which is around the Riverside Walk and the progress on that. Keith, again, anything you want to add to that paper? It's mainly for noting, but really anything you want?
Yeah, I mean, we are trying to put the final piece of the jigsaw puzzle in on that. It's with legal at the moment, I think, so probably not a lot I can add to that.
Yeah, but worth noting, there's again good progress on that one. Councillor Harwood, Simon.
Sorry, are we able to say, and I'm sure I must have seen it in my emails over the years, but why did the transfer not take place, or is that the matter of the legal thing that we can't really say?
Keith, are you able to...
Yeah, I'm not quite sure what transfer you're speaking of, Simon. There were two that were potentially in the pipeline. There was one on the Gilgrave Place side and one on the Sun Street side. It's the one on the Sun Street side that is currently under negotiation.
Yeah, sorry, it just says in paragraph 2.1 of the report that the transfer never took place. So I was just wondering against that.
I think the let me just get it in front of me.
Sorry, I can't hear you. Sorry.
I think that referred to the previous Gilgrave Place transfer. I'm just sorry, I'm just looking at it now. The place on the Gilgrave Place. Oh, I've gone.
Sorry, I didn't
Can you
quite
still hear me?
Yeah, yes, I can. You were a bit faint.
I lost you. I lost you all there.
Yeah,
you disappeared into the ether. Yes, the Gilgrave Place transfer has not been effected as yet. It is still a fallback position, though, Simon.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I don't mean to poke too hard. Why has the transfer not taken place? The report didn't tell us why it hadn't happened.
Ongoing difficulties with other parties.
Sorry, I'm just trying to get a bit more detail. I'm not trying to be difficult. What are the ongoing difficulties?
I'm not sure what I can say in a public arena. I'm very happy to have a private conversation with you.
Perhaps to take that offline. Councillor Steers-Hanscom.
Yeah, I was. There are two particular issues. One, it may be that Keith is right that that's better taken off, but I know there were discussions at various times about this. The particular difficulty is that to make an effective Riverside Walk, it's on the wrong side of the river. So you'd have to build quite an expensive bridge. I think that was one of the principal problems, but there were others in terms of it's all very well, if I put it this way, it's all very well a developer putting an obligation in there. People then go and live in a place and are not quite so keen on what might be going past their front doors, but to put it no stronger than that.
Yeah, thank you, understood.
Thanks Simon, thanks Martin. I mean the paper's there just for noting, but again obviously we'll make sure that we return to that and keep you updated on the progress of this fairly long running issue, but it's good to see there is some positive progress being made on it, and we will report back. Have we got Chris arrived yet, Katie?
She's here, we can see her.
Yeah, Chris should be on your screen now. So Chris Coe is joining us.
Wonderful. Thank you, Judy. Thank you for spotting, and welcome, Chris. Thank you for coming this evening, and I'll try and be less observant or more observant in future. Welcome to the meeting. If you'd like to give us a short presentation around your proposal and your grant request, and then it'll be open to councillors to ask you any questions about it, and then we'll have a discussion immediately after that. After that, your opportunity to respond to any questions. But over to you, Chris, to give us a short presentation.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I'm here on behalf of the Peace Garden Committee of the Hitchin Quakers. As I'm sure you're aware, we have a prime site of building the Friends Meeting House is right in the middle of Hitchin, in the middle of the one-way system at Paynes Park. And over the last 2 or 3 years, we've been transforming the burial ground, which is underneath that pillared building, into a peace garden. This was our contribution to the World War I commemorations. And up till now, we've managed to dig ourselves a pond in the shape of a dove, which has got goldfish and lilies in it. We've contributed all sorts of benches and a picnic table and a sundial and a peace pole, and we're in the middle of doing a mosaic. And the final thing, and what we want it to be, is the main attraction, if you like, of the Peace Garden, is to install a sculpture. Now, a Peace Garden is open to everyone. This is not a religious endeavour. This is us opening our grounds to the people of Hitchin and visitors or people of faith or no faith, whatever. It's just a very good site to have a garden. And we asked the boys' school in Hitchin, who are our near neighbours, to come up with designs for something that would be fitting for a peace garden. And they come up with 3, and we've chosen one called Unity. And it's 2 intertwined, what will be stainless steel loops, that's all it is. And we'll put a plaque up about the importance of unity and in times of division and bringing communities together. And this is the one feature that needs to be professionally done. It's going to cost us a lot of money, about £10,000 to secure it and have it designed and built properly. And we first asked the Arts Council, thinking that as it was a public art feature, that they might be willing to help us. But as you might imagine, at a time of pandemic, they are overwhelmed with demands on their funds for all the artists that haven't got any work at the moment. So we were turned down for that. And I'm afraid you were next on my list. So I'd love you to help us fund this. Quakers have no money. We've been saving up for ages to transform our toilets, which were built in the 1960s, into proper modern toilets. And we have just done that this year. So they are now disabled, accessible, they're unisex, marvellous. We've now got no money again. So we've done everything else we can with voluntary labour, with fundraising ourselves. We really would like some money for this sculpture, please. Thank you.
Thanks.
Please ask me any questions.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. I've considered one hand so far. Councillor Collins, Sam.
Thanks, Ian. This isn't so much a question. It's more just a couple of points, but I think they're relevant here. First of all, I think people might be sitting watching. If we're going to spend £2,000 on something, is this the best thing to spend money on? There's a lot of people struggling, and a lot of projects we want to do across that deliver a lot for Hitchin, and I think that's something we have to consider. But at the same time, we need to support the arts. Hitchin has a great history in the arts, and this is something that will last for generations, and I think it's a very important thing, a very prominent feature. On top of that, I'm very pleased that, Christine, they made a point that this isn't a religious installation, because if it was, I'd probably be saying, well, not so keen on that. But it's a very good message. It's been designed locally. Hopefully it'll be produced locally, not sure about that. One sort of question of clarification. I know we don't have anyone from the legal team in here. If we were to fund this as Hitchin committee and vote in favour of it, I'm aware that there's a planning application in for this installation. And if we were to vote anyway on it, would that cause any councillor to vote on it to basically be predetermination on that? And in such a way that they wouldn't be able to vote. I mean, I plan to, if it ever did go to the planning committee, I was planning to speak in favour of it anyway. So I certainly won't be voting on it because I've already said I think it's a great idea. So I fully support this, but just note of caution and clarification required on planning applications, and can we vote on that?
Yes, thank you for your support, Sam. On the planning application point, we've already got planning permission. We put that in last year and we got permission for it on to this exact design, so that's not an issue. I absolutely agree with you that in amongst all the other demands on your money, this might not seem like a high priority. And all I can say is that it's free, it's available to all the people in Hitchin. This might be just the time when we all need a bit of inspiration. And yes, it's not about meeting people's basic needs at a time when, you know, the food bank needs money or people need money because they're unemployed. But it is still something that is really worthwhile.
Cheers, thanks, Chris. I've got a couple more hands at least. Councillor Hoskins, Keith.
Yeah, thanks, Ian, and thanks, Chris. I think the work that you've done in that area already on your grounds is superlative, and it looks really nice when we walk past that. I think this is a great project. I think I've said to you before, it's one I would be fully supportive of. I would perhaps, as I said to you before, urge you perhaps to have some sort of Just Giving type page so that the local community residents themselves could contribute if they wish to. I certainly would contribute as a resident to it. So I wish you very well with it.
Thanks, Keith. Judy.
Thank you. I think it's just worth saying that throughout the last few months, when the role of local councils and local councillors has mostly been about making sure that people are fed and housed and well, we have also, as a local council, taken quite a lot of time to make sure that we were also supporting the root needs of local populations, like the arts, and we've already held a couple of meetings with people providing arts in the area, struggling, as you say, at the moment, but hoping to keep the whole notion of artistic endeavour buoyed up for when we've all had our vaccines and can go back to enjoying everything again. And for that reason, I would give this project my absolute support. I think you know that because I think I've already said so in an email. And I don't think the things are incompatible. And I think it's really important that we have a view to some sort of optimistic future in which arts play a part as well as a desperate present.
Just thanks, Judy. I don't think there's anything for Chris to respond to on that one. Councillor Steers-Hanscom, Martin.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I'm going to be saying some very similar things. I won't repeat what everyone's already said, but of course, part of the thing that everyone's found very difficult is people's mental health and well-being, and we do need spaces like this with inspirational art to help people, to give people sort of some sense of well-being and hope. And I think this sort of installation is brilliant, so it's got my full support as well.
Thanks, Martin. Councillor Harwood, Simon.
Hello. Did I miss, sorry, in the report of the verbal, where is the plan to get the additional £7,155 requested coming from?
Chris, do you want to respond to that?
You didn't miss it, don't worry. When I first applied, I thought, oh, they could fund the whole thing. And then I discovered that you only fund up to 2,000. So if you give us any money at all, that would be very helpful, but it will be the start of our fundraising. And as I'm sure you know, if you've done any fundraising yourself, having a bit of a contribution from one body often encourages another. So I've already put in an application to Hitchin Rotary Club. And as Keith Hoskins said, I think it'd be a very good idea to have a Just Giving page so that individuals in Hitchin can contribute if they want to. We'll probably try the Hearts Community Foundation, though they have some prohibitions on any religious bodies, just as you do. But we would try them. And also the Hearts Community Innovation Fund, which the Hearts County Council are doing with crowdfunding, which you probably already know about. So there are 3 or 4 different avenues for us to try. But you're right, you would only be contributing a small amount. And if you wanted to just hold on to that money until we get some more, that's absolutely fine by us.
Okay, yeah, I think that, does that answer your question, Simon? Does that?
It does, thank you. I think we'll take this up further in debate.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Keith, sorry, Judy, was that a legacy hand, so to speak? Was that?
It absolutely was. I was not going to speak again. You'll be really pleased to know.
And Keith, was that?
I was just going to add, when Christine talked about applying to Hitchin Rotary Club, just a reminder that there are 3 Rotary clubs in Hitchin, so I should apply to them all.
Yep, good. Thanks for that. Yeah, thanks for that. Are there any further questions for Chris before we've obviously already started a bit of a debate, but let's, any further questions? No?
Well, there are also 3 county councillors.
Yes, yeah, 3. Obviously, the 3 county councillors could consider making
in Hitchin.
Yeah, make a contribution.
Or if you include Richard, sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry, Richard.
Yes. Yes, Richard, you're very welcome to contribute if you right, if there's no other questions, thanks for that, Chris. You're welcome to
Chairman,
Chair.
If I got a direct application to my county council email address, I would give it proper consideration.
Thank you. That's excellent. Right, if there's no further questions for Chris, let's move to debate. Chris, you're welcome to stay for the discussion on the item before we move on. Really open for debate. The proposal is there that we could make a payment of £2,000 or indeed up to £2,000 towards this. Could I just get some advice, probably from Katie, just before we start? If we were to earmark a sum of money for this, how long do we keep that sort of sum of money sort of carrying forward for? Or indeed, how long can we keep it sort of carried forward, earmarked for this? If obviously, for example, the other money wasn't raised, what's the situation there?
Yes, so I believe that my report outlines that there is an understanding that the full amount of money for the project cost hasn't been sought yet, but there is an understanding between ourselves and the applicant that we would withhold that money until the full project cost had been secured. So that has already been discussed, just to make that clear. I would say that the time allocation, we would allocate them up to 1 year to gain the rest of the funding. That's the usual amount of time that we do our monitoring on a 6-monthly basis, and then check in again in a year. And if the funds aren't spent within that year, then we would have to reconsider.
And am I right in thinking, just for bring obviously other colleagues in, that we would retain that money until such times, we wouldn't pay the money over at this stage, we would retain it until such times as the other money is obtained, and then we would pay our 2,000 or whatever amount we've chosen to give, if we choose to give an amount. Is that would that be fair?
That's correct, but as Chris said, she could approach other organisations to say that they had an agreement in principle from NHDC to help them to attract other funding.
Fantastic, lovely. Thanks for that, Katie. That's really helpful. So over to councillors, and first hand, Councillor Harwood, Simon.
Yes, and I'll apologise in advance, but I couldn't live with myself if I didn't make the following statement. So just warning, Christine, I am going to play a bad cop here for a moment, and I apologise for that. I absolutely hear what all of my colleagues are saying about the need to support local art groups, especially at this time, the need for mental health and well-being. I'm just struggling, I've got to be honest, with the amount of money. In the larger scheme of things, £2,000 isn't a lot. It is, I think, actually a lot in the overall scheme of the allocation that the Hitchin Area Committee gets. In normal times, i.e., I mean, outside of March 2019 to today, I think I would have supported this wholeheartedly. But I think there will be residents watching this and residents before and after this debate questioning giving £2,000 at this difficult time. Now, I'm not saying I don't support it. And if we could come up with an inventive way of making up the shortfall up to a maximum of 2,000, let's say. So if the group were able to raise 9.5, we'd give 500. If the group was able to raise 9,000, we'd give 1,000. But I'm struggling with giving 2,000 this evening when we know there are so many other charities and needy causes that would give more direct benefit, if I may, back. And I apologise if any of my colleagues disagree with that, but I'm just struggling with such a large amount of money at this difficult time for everybody.
Good, thanks, Simon. No, that's a helpful comment. Martin, Councillor Steers-Hanscom. Martin.
Yeah, I am. I do hear what Simon says, but I don't note a long queue of other applications this evening. And at the moment, and with relation to COVID and so on, there are a number of other ways in which we are supporting local community. I think this is something that very much fits in with the sort of thing that this committee should consider. I don't think we've made huge contributions to the arts recently at all, and I think I would like to move that we make this commitment, bearing in mind that, of course, if we're not at this time, we're not the group is not able to raise the full 10,000, then the money will come back to us to use for other groups. But I think this is a good thing for us to do. I think it says that we want to look after people's well-being as well as looking after them in other ways. And as I say, there are other funds that, as you know, Chair, the council as a whole is making available to deal with this particularly difficult time. So I think on balance, although I do know what you say, if we were saying we were going to give 10,000 or a much larger proportion, then I would say no. But I think 2,000 is a reasonable contribution for us to make. And of course, we're more likely, the group is more likely to get to 10,000 if we're able to give a significant sum to kick things off. So I'll move that we make a donation of 2,000.
Thanks, Martin. And I think, as Katie has said in the chat, we obviously also have the Coronavirus Community Support Fund for COVID-specific applications, and we had a panel meeting the other day, which obviously looking at a local application for Hitchin. Councillor Clark. Paul.
I'm happy to second Councillor Steers-Hanscom's proposal. However, I do want to check that the money taken from this year's budget won't impact upon next year's budget. I don't want the portfolio holder for finance taking the money out of our pot, for next year. So, as Martin says, I managed to get the thing. We've got about 4,500, left in the budget pot this year. So, the 2,000 will come out of this year's pot and not next year's pot on that basis, and the basis of, they raise the money, once they've got the 8,000, they need, we then finish it off. I'm happy to second.
Yeah, we've certainly from my point of view, I mean, obviously I can't speak for any final decision that's reached, but that I was very keen that area committees, and indeed the previous administration did in the end, that were allowed to carry forward budgets from year to year, and I think that feels the right thing to do, and I think the right thing to do do here. Councillor Billing, Judy Billing, that is.
Gosh, I don't think I've ever heard you call me Councillor Billing before.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely bizarre. What I wanted to say was that I'm spending most of my life at the moment as a local councillor, district and county, in the disbursement of grants and funds of complex and various natures. And Katie's put in the chat line that we also do have the COVID-19 Community Support Fund that you, Chair, very imaginatively helped to establish as one of the district council's commitments to making sure that people stayed afloat in very necessary ways through the pandemic. We're also dispersing a lot of government grants of more or less complexity and comprehensibility at different times. And indeed, even the county councillors were each given an uplift of an extra £5,000 this year to spend specifically on COVID-related need and development. So it seems to me that what Hitchin Committee can do tonight is go into the future with just a tiny sniff of a possible normality. And in that way, I too would support that we do spend this money in this way with a hopeful kind of steer towards a normality, hopefully around the time that the Quakers have raised the rest of the money and some of us have had a vaccine and maybe there is a better future ahead. So I would definitely support this allocation.
Thanks, Judy. Are there any other comments, questions? No. Well, we've got a proposal on the table for from Martin, which I think was seconded by Paul, to agree a grant of £2,000 with obviously the conditions that we set out. They obviously provide with that proviso the other money needs to be raised. I suggest that we probably vote on that proposal in the usual way. So yes, green ticks for yes, and others for no. But yeah, and that's, I think, William, that looks like clearly carried.
Yes. Thank you, Chair. That vote is carried.
That's carried. Thanks everyone. So we've agreed that we would make that provisional allocation of £2,000 as we've set out. So thanks Chris for attending this evening, and obviously hopefully good luck in your fundraising for the rest of the money. I hope we look forward to hearing from you and the success in finding the rest of that balance. So thank you. Great. Thanks very much. If we then move on to the remainder of the report of Katie's report, and then also there was some notes I think she circulated round. You circulated around earlier on, Katie, that kind of covers a little bit more. A little bit more of that. Do you want to run us through the rest of the report and the various activities going on around sort of community engagement and so on around Hitchin?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Chair. Did you want me to run through the financial implications first of all with relation to the grant we've just?
I think we can probably take that as read. I think people got the gist that we've effectively now. Yeah. That means we've got the that balance was it 2,500 less for the next meeting. Is that?
Yeah. So just 2,535 remaining for the March meeting. Yeah. Okay. So in terms of community engagement updates, first of all, to start us off, we had the Hitchin special town talk, which was all about arts and culture, which Judy mentioned earlier. So the first meeting of that took place on the 19th of October and was very successful. We had a discussion with sort of key providers within Hitchin. And we decided then to organise a follow-up subcommittee, which is going to take place on the 9th of December, which members are welcome to attend. And this subcommittee will discuss how we can celebrate the Hitchin culture in 2021. And what arts providers would like to see happen, how it can be achieved, and how we might work collaboratively to achieve those things. So that's the subcommittee happening on the 9th of December. And then we will plan another wider meeting of the Town Talk in January to revisit that.
Just probably worth saying, obviously, if any councillors here would like to attend that working group on the 9th, we can. It's 6 o'clock on the 9th of December. You're very welcome. We can provide you. Katie can provide you with the Zoom details and so on. So if you just let her know about that, but you're very welcome to come. And then there will be another meeting as you mentioned, in January.
If I could just throw into the hat now, Chair, for that.
Yeah, fantastic. If you add Simon to that, Katie.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, and then moving on, you may have all recently received your save the date for the Holocaust Memorial Day service, which we'll be hosting on the 27th of January at 11 a.m. So the theme for 2021 is Be the Light in the Darkness. And we are just in the process of finalising the digital order of service for the event. And Rabbi Alan Garber from Shenley United Synagogue will be leading the service again this year. And there will be various other presentations, including one from Chris Kell and other members of the North Hearts Interfaith Forum. And interestingly, we were also going to hear from a gentleman called Yankee Fackler, and Yankee's family were one of the Jewish families who moved to Letchworth around the time of the Second World War, and he's got some fascinating stories to tell. So it'll be really interesting to hear from him. And then we're also going to share a testimonial from Ivor Pearl, who was a Holocaust survivor as well. So yeah, we're just in the process of finalising the order of service, and that will be sent out in due course. So that's Holocaust Memorial Day. I don't know if anyone had any questions on that.
Richard, was it on this?
Yes, sorry, Chairman.
Yeah, go on, Richard.
My hearing is not as good as it ought to be, and I heard the 11 a.m., which I understood it might well be a morning thing, because Judy and I were a member of a previous meeting where the timing of such memorials were brought into question, and Judy raised the issue that these weren't necessarily in the evening, but I missed the date, and I'd be grateful if you could repeat the date, please.
Yeah, no problem. It's Wednesday, the 27th of January.
Thank you for that.
Okay. And then moving on, the next point was just around the Chair's Volunteer Achievement Awards. So the nominations are now open for the volunteers to be nominated. And there's going to be a big sort of promotional drive on this from Thursday onwards. It's going into the Comet on Thursday, and then we'll go out on all NHDC communication channels. There's 4 categories this year. They're much the same as last year, apart from the Caring Award has now been changed so that it's relevant to sort of helping communities during COVID. And the deadline for nominating is Friday the 18th of December, and all of the information can be found on the website. Any questions on that one?
No, can't see anything though.
Okay, lovely. And so just a short roundup of the Community Support Fund then, just to say that this far we've spent 77,700 of the rough budget of 150,000 that we allocated to the Community Support Fund. And there is 3,500 pending from grants, which were presented to the panel last week. These were for King's Community Church in Letchworth for their food hub, and for North Herts and Stevenage Samaritans for additional equipment so that they can be COVID secure in their practices. So if those were to be agreed, it would it would mean that we have spent 81,200 so far. So that's just a brief sort of update on where we are with regard to that fund. And then last of all, I just wanted to update members with regards to food provision. It's something that I sort of work quite substantially on in my role as I chair the North Herts Food Provision Network Group. Recently, officers allocated a grant from DEFRA, and we allocated it in the form of supermarket vouchers to 14 food providers across the district, as the fund sort of would be spread quite thinly if we distributed it to all food banks. We chose to support smaller scale food banks in the rural areas who hadn't had much or any grant funding from NHDC in the past. So that was all allocated on Friday. We are currently in the process of putting together a roundup of provision of food organisations across the festive period and what's on offer for local residents. So I have sent you some information, but that is being updated by the day, and I've set the deadline for organisations to send me their updates by Sunday. So I will send round the updated list when I have it with regards to Christmas provision. That was it. But if anyone had any questions, I'm happy to take them. Thank you.
Thanks, Katie. Any questions on any of those issues from councillors? Obviously, thanks for all the work that you and the team are doing, particularly around the food provision stuff. There's obviously a comprehensive update that you've let us have there, and some really great work going on across the district on it. But if there's no question, happy to note those reports, colleagues. Yep, lots of nods. Thank you very much. Which takes us then on to the air quality report. Now, Shane Crowe, one of the council officers, was not able to be with us this evening. I wanted to put this sort of out there so you've got the report and you've seen this report. We will get Shane to come to our next meeting, but I'm really open, I think, obviously, for any kind of immediate questions, comments, or things that we can refer back to Shane for either for clearance or indeed for comment upon prior to our next meeting, or indeed that she can pick up at our next meeting when she comes. I mean, clearly there's obviously the page 31 of the report covers the issues around Paynes Park and Stevenage Road and the air quality management areas there, which has certainly been a discussion for these meetings on a number of occasions. But obviously the figures are for 2000 and effectively up to 2019, and obviously things have moved on somewhat since then. But so really open to kind of questions and comments from councillor colleagues. And if I take first of all, Councillor Harwood, Simon.
Thank you, Chair. I mean, a general comment and a specific comment. I mean, I've got a PhD in chemistry, right? And I struggle with this report. It's not particularly user-friendly in allowing us to really interpret what's going on. It uses a lot of very, very scientific terms, or rather maybe not scientific terms, but terminology very specific to somebody who obviously is qualified, and I think as councillors we need a plain English version of what's been said. And I'll just quote one statement from page 23 as an example. It says, for the Stevenage Road AQMA, the air quality monitoring area, I guess, close examination of monitoring results highlights that pollution levels close to the Hitchin Hill roundabout remain static at levels marginally above or just below the objective levels. But when corrected for relevant exposure, all are below objective levels. Well, I glanced through the report, and I'd love to know what things like relevant exposure sort of actually mean, but I couldn't, in all 108 pages, maybe I just missed it, but I couldn't really determine whether that was a good thing or a bad thing. And then sort of finally, just on my bleat, I mean, who set the levels for what's good and what's bad? I mean, maybe we disagree what the level is that should be a healthy level. And I know that's probably a national standard. And the next thing I would say is, I think it's a combination of air and noise quality. And we don't monitor the noise bit and the disruption bit as well within there. And I know that's not part of the report. So sort of in summary, I would like to see a more interpretive, a more understandable report for councillors that we can actually do something with or interpret in a way. If any other councillors do understand it better than I do, I'm happy to hear them and have it explained to me, but I don't get it.
I think, I mean, what I would, yeah, and I think I'd absolutely take that point on board, Simon. I mean, I wanted to get this paper out to you, there. So in fairness to officers, that this doesn't come with a cover report that we would probably, expect normally with a cover paper and the conclusions, the recommendations, and so on within that. So that in a sense is the missing bit here, which but I did felt it was sensible to kind of get it to come out, so you've got it and you've seen it and you can kind of hopefully understand at least some of it. But point taken completely, and we can certainly feed that point back. Councillor Collins, Sam.
Yeah, well, as some of you know, this is an area I work in professionally in a consultancy role with a number of car manufacturers. So in terms of who sets the level, I believe it's EU law sets the level, to answer Simon's question. Quite what that will mean next year, don't know, but we'll find out, I guess. But I think that's going to be rolled through to UK law, and we'll be able to look into that into more detail. I think Councillor Dennis Harburg's husband may be an absolute expert in this, but I don't think we can bring him into it. She's shaking her head, but I know he knows a lot about this subject as well, because we've discussed it a lot informally. I think it's a real shame we don't have an officer to discuss this report with in the meeting. However, it's good. It's very excellent that we've got this report, because it gives us the opportunity to raise a couple of issues. Now, I knew Councillor Harwood would immediately start looking at the Three Moorhens roundabout figures, because him and I both have quite a serious issue with a planning application that was approved for somewhere down on the Codicut Road. Quite frankly, the suggestion in the report that the AQMA there may be coming to the end of its life and maybe we need to stop looking is fundamentally incorrect. There's a lot of housing development that's going to happen along that road. Some of them are in the local plan, some of them not. Priory Fields will have an impact on that if that's built. Hopefully it won't be. There's also the concrete smashing plant, as I call it, down there, with all these big trucks that are going to be coming up, queuing up at that exact point. So I don't think it's appropriate at all to be discussing removing that AQMA at this point, particularly as 2020 has had significantly lower levels of traffic right throughout. So we certainly shouldn't be looking at that before 2022 at the very earliest. And so I think that's a really key point. My personal feeling is we don't have enough air quality monitoring stations in Hitchin. I think there's a number of other areas of town where there's probably an issue. Something else in this report that's just noted a couple of times, and it's something I will be taking up with the portfolio holder, so I apologise to Paul, he's going to get his ear bent a little bit, and then maybe the officers will as well. In terms of parking, it says in this document that NHDC has a objective of having all car parking spaces in our off-street car parks, 5% of which should have EV charging points. That's woefully inadequate, quite frankly. That's not good enough. It's not even near the level we need to have. The UK, this is not my numbers, these are numbers you can go and look up. The UK needs to build 500,000 public EV charging points between a few weeks ago and 2030, when the sale of combustion engine only passenger vehicles is phased out. That's 120 a day, including bank holidays and Christmas and things like that. We're way behind the curve, and in North Hertfordshire, we're particularly bad. 5% is just, it's just not even close to where we need to be. There needs to be a minimum of 55% or higher. We need to increase our work on this significantly. As you can see in the wider report on the big table, there is work going on it, but I sometimes feel like I'm a slightly lonely voice in this council arguing for a lot more. We need to gear that work up. And yes, we need to be lobbying central government to get the funding, because funding is the big shortfall on this, to get this work done. But we need a massive investment in EV charging in Hitchin and right across North Hertfordshire. But it's Hitchin committee and I'm focused on Hitchin. We need to do an awful lot more, and 5% more EV charging spaces in Woodside, Port Mill and St Mary's and the multi-storey, not even close enough. We need to do a hell of a lot more. And I think we need to be, as a committee, need to be really pushing hard the officers to get that moving along and get a slightly more future-proofed scheme going on, because we are so far behind on this. And as for the final point about the air quality improving in some of the spots, and it's the report, if you read the report, it could be read in such a way that the improvement in air quality is down to work done by the council or work we've done. It's absolutely nothing of the sort. That improvement is being seen right across the country, and it's down to changes in trends and shifts in trends in the automotive industry. You're seeing an awful lot more hybrids being used across the county area. You're seeing, especially across the district area, people like Paul Clark have switched from from a combustion only vehicle to a hybrid. Others are doing the same. More electric vehicles are on the road, and the combustion engines we see in our cars are massively more efficient than they were even 2-3 years ago. That's why we're seeing that, and that is a continuing trend. Let's not get complacent about that, because with big trucks and stuff coming through Hitchin, it's going to get worse. The local plan means congestion is going to get worse, and low average speed is directly proportional to poor air quality. So we must not get complacent about this.
Thanks, Dan. Claire Billing, Councillor Billing.
Hi. Yeah, I just wanted to make the point that I think it's really important that we are all able to understand the findings of the report, because it's really important, particularly as it's at Ella in Lewisham in London, the inquest this week, to see whether the pollution in the area affected her asthma that killed her 9 years ago. So I think it's really important that we understand the impact that the pollution that we may have in Hitchin is having on our environment. That's all I want to say.
Thank you. Thanks, Claire. Richard?
Yes, thank you, Chairman. I find myself in a very difficult position here, agreeing with much that Councillor Sam Collins says. I don't want to get political, because the issue is one of huge, immense import. And it would be very easy, wouldn't it, to say that I actually admire him for having a pop at his administration for claiming things that they're not doing. I'm not going to go there, because frankly, that's minimizing the import of where he is going, and I absolutely support him. To move air monitoring stations is nonsense. We know that that is a critical junction. It's not. It's on the verge of Simon and I, and Paul Clark and others. I think possibly Sam's spot. Moving it doesn't resolve anything. We need more. I support him absolutely in that. And as I say, I caveated my potential triumphalism over shortcomings of what you're doing as a collective, because frankly, the predecessors weren't particularly good either.
Thanks. Thank you, Richard. Are there any other comments on the? So I think, I mean, William, I think if you kind of captured the kind of key points that we really like to feed back to to Shane. There's got a couple more hands. I've just seen there's Martin, and I will bring you back to Martin.
Yeah, I don't think we're actually taking a pop at the administration, Richard. I think we're all want to do more. And
I was careful not to do so, Martin.
Yeah,
I really was.
Yeah,
no,
I was tempted, but I didn't.
You know me, I like to work cross-party, including all parties, not just the administration. I think in Hitchin committee, we are talking from the point of view of what's happening in Hitchin, and we do have the two worst areas. And I absolutely agree that we don't want to take away anything, any monitoring. Obviously, we've got to do it within what we can do, but I agree that we need to relook at that, the number of vehicle charging points. We need to push that up. So yes, that's something we need to look at. But really what I wanted to say is we're having this back at the next meeting, and I think we need to take the message from this meeting that we don't want to take away, whether, and I can't match Simon's chemistry PhD. I've just got a physics BSc. So, but I agree that these sort of reports aren't terribly easy to read, but that's why we have an officer to come and say what it means to us and how we can then go forward. And I think we've got some messages to take back, but hopefully at our next meeting we'll have some resolutions that we can take forward as to what we expect for Hitchin.
Yeah, thanks, Martin. Simon, was there a specific point you wanted to?
Very quick. Would it be appropriate to take this into the environmental panel we are having as well, or is that not the sort of place to debate?
I'm sure it. Let me bring in Elizabeth. Elizabeth, do you want to come in on this?
Yes, the climate panel has actually got a scheduled meeting where air quality is due to be discussed. I can't remember if it's January or the final one for this year, but it is on our agenda, and I'm sure this report will be broken down, and we will be pushing to try and get some more recent up-to-date data to understand what's happened in 2020 in terms of pollution as well, and potentially what lessons we as an authority can learn from that.
Thanks. No, that's helpful, and I think we'd certainly like to sort of see if we can provide some feedback from this committee and some of the discussion we've had this evening, on that to the panel. Richard, was there a?
Yeah, I did want to come back, Chairman, because I have to say I'm grateful that you brought Elizabeth in. This is not an issue for the Hitchin committee, but it is an issue I think that needs to be considered by us all collectively, including the committee that Elizabeth referred to. In Little Wymondley, there is a proposal under the local plan to build some 300 plus dwellings, and an application went in recently for a decision on whether or not an environmental assessment in respect of that proposal was needed or not. And the officers came back with a conclusion that an environmental assessment on the impact of 300 dwellings in a village adjacent to the A602 was not necessary. And I'm not going to try and debate it in open forum here, but it is mind-blowingly incomprehensible to me that 300 dwellings would not have an environmental impact.
I do take your point, Richard. I'm conscious that whilst I believe Hitchin is the most superior committee in North Hearts, but I am conscious that we don't yet cover Little Wymondley.
No, Chairman, you misunderstand me.
Sorry, Councillor, just to
you
interrupt on
misunderstand
that
me.
point.
I was merely supporting the point that the Environment Committee is actually of greater import than maybe we collectively believe it is.
No, I agree.
And it needs to address these issues because we have a problem here where there appears to be a considerable mismatch between what the general public believe we should be doing, what many of us councillors believe we should be doing, and what the officers think that they can do. That may be a fault of government, and again, I go back to what we've said. We are not government. But frankly, these are issues that need to be looked at, Chairman. And thank you for letting me raise it. And I'm not expecting a decision from Hitchin Committee, but it's just to illustrate the importance of that committee that Elizabeth and you referred to.
I agree, and I think that's welcome, and I'm sure that obviously in the Conservative manifesto there won't be a reference this time to the fact of having too many panel meetings, because I think you recognise the importance of that committee and the panels that this administration has set up. Councillor Clark.
Touche, Chairman, touche.
Yeah.
Paul.
Wymanley, as you say, is not in Hitchin, but the road in Wymanley leads to the Three Moor Hens roundabout, which is one of the things. So I agree with that. But to try and get my ears some respite from Councillor Collins, the 5% is not good enough across the district, not just Hitchin. So I will be taking that up. I do have a briefing tomorrow, and just rest my ear.
Thank you. Look, I think, I mean, I hopefully found I think having this report useful, and admittedly it's in a sort of raw state, but I wanted to kind of bring it here because I've been nagging away about getting the air quality report to this committee. It's somewhat sort of overdue for lots of understandable reasons, and let me also say that Shane Crowe would have liked to have been here, but she's got some real childcare difficulties this evening, so just couldn't be here. So send her apologies. Otherwise, she'd have been very happy to be here, and we'll come to our next meeting. I think we could take away the points that you've made. I'll just look very finally, Sam. Joe, I'm being indulgent. Go on.
It's actually not me that I want to hear from for once. It's Councillor Dennis Harburg, because I think the comment she made, she's refusing to it because she's made an excellent comment that only councillors can see, but it is a really excellent comment, and I wish the public were made aware of it.
It's not an excellent comment at all. It's a soapbox, and you know that very well. It's quite simply that this might be an issue that this committee can debate. It's also something that a cabinet subcommittee, which is all the environment panel really is at the end of the day, can debate and discuss and look at. But if we want to drive change, those of us in this meeting physically, those of us observing it and in the wider community, then each and every single one of us has got to take ownership of this issue and take it forward in our personal lives. That's a soapbox, Sam. It's not important.
Yeah. Thank you, and thank you both for that. So I think we'd certainly take away, and we'll certainly feed back to Shane and obviously to the environment panel some of the comments that we've made this evening, and looking forward to returning to this subject, at the next meeting when we'll have an update report from Shane, and we can ask her some specific questions. But no, thanks for that, and thanks, I think, to what's been a really, really good debate, which takes us on then to the item 10, which is the members' reports, ward and outside organisations, and so on. I mean, I've written down sort of 3 things there, but I mean, obviously, colleagues may have some other issues. The station access. I don't know whether either Paul or Martin would like to sort of lead on that, or indeed, obviously, a number of colleagues here that were been to the meetings. So, Paul, do you want to kick off where we're up to on that?
I mean, that is continuing to go. There was a concern that we were going to lose some 106 money, but that got headed off after a few of us commented quite strongly about it. So that is happening. The meeting's being pushed. The next meeting's being pushed back. It's case studies. Whether it can be done is where we're at. There is potential funding being identified as well as we go forward.
Cheers, thanks. I mean, as I say, we've got, I think the next meeting's on probably the 7th of December. I mean, I'm really hopeful that we can, and I think the key thing that we've emphasised here is that there are some long-term issues around how and when we can move the aggregates site from where it is to free up the whole of that site for access, but obviously trying to make sure we can get a good quick win in terms of for residents, in terms of actually getting some pedestrian and cycle access to that side of the station, which can effectively predate anything we might do on a rather more longer term in terms of the whole of the site. But we'll certainly keep the committee informed on that, and hopefully try and come back to a further report at the next meeting on it. I've got the next one I've got down. I just could put down was around sort of North Herts College, which obviously was the subject of a planning discussion, planning committee discussion last week. Elizabeth, I don't know whether you want to cover off anything that you want to add on that, or indeed any other colleagues. And obviously some other colleagues here were at the meeting, but perhaps Elizabeth, who was the member advocate for this, and then I've got Paul's hand after that.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I think just to sort of echo what Paul said, we almost lost the funding which had been allocated for the station access from the North Herts College development, and it was only through the efforts of a number of local members and officers at both district and county really pushing to get that back into the plan. So the developer has now agreed to that, which is extremely beneficial, given that this site is going to result in even more commuters potentially being in Walsworth, and even more strain on the footpath under the railway bridge, on the roads, etc. in that area. And that's even before we get onto Highover Farm. So I'm pleased that that was added, because in my view, if that small amount of money by comparison to the overall cost of the project had been taken out, the site would not have been viable. I think one of the things that's difficult, and I don't envy colleagues who are on the planning committee their decision on this particular item, is the really low level of affordable housing that we've been forced to accept for this particular development. And I hear the argument that there is community benefit through the Section 106 money and the contribution to the station, to highways, to schools in the area, etc. And then obviously, of course, the football pitches and the widening sporting participation is going to flow from this as an enabling development as well. I'm still not 100% sold that 15% affordable housing and no real, to my mind, indication of sustainable housing as well was included in that plan. So I think perhaps as the local plan sort of moves through its final phases, and as I think Councillor Collins keeps reminding us, certain SPDs are being developed, these are points to be borne in mind and are potentially lessons learned, because I don't want any future planning committees to have to be in the position I saw colleagues in the other week of essentially having their hands tied, because this is a good opportunity for us in terms of sport, in terms of developing and investing in local infrastructure. It's just really, really frustrating to me that it's potentially not going to be as good as in an ideal world I think the majority of us would have liked it to be.
Thank you. I've got Paul and then Val. Paul?
It's not on the college site, so if you
Oh,
want
okay, right. So if I'll come back to you and say, Val, was it on the college site?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, go on, Val.
Yes, I got to admit that I was on the planning committee and I did vote for it. And I really had to think really hard about it. And I think three problems I had. First of all, was this idea is an enabling development, that if we didn't actually grant permission for the site, that in fact, what would happen to North Herts College? And how important was that? That was one debate. Secondly, it was about the number of affordable housing, which was derisory from the beginning and went down to a level which was, I would have considered unacceptable. And thirdly, I never got an answer about the materials of the building. And when Sam earlier on was talking about that we in Hitchin, we actually had good buildings for the future, I actually put a question mark and put North Herts College. I think it's something we need to look, because I never got those details. But I did vote for it.
Thanks. Go on. I knew with your name mentioned you'd want to come in, Sam. Go on, Sam, and then I've got Mike.
Just sort of to answer Val's question slightly, it was exactly the subject I was talking about in the same planning meeting on the next item, which was the old town lodge building. I wanted to see that built to the higher standards that we're bringing it in.
Can I come back?
You
absolutely.
can in a minute, Val, but go on, Sam.
Well, the whole point is, I think this is all relating back to the SPDs, which are going to be available to all councillors imminently. Paul Clark can probably tell us exactly when.
Go on, Val.
He can't.
Yeah.
I actually voted against the town lodge application, and I did so because I felt I accepted what the conservation officer said about the building quality, that it wasn't good enough for a town which actually was, it's neutrality, it's for architecture.
That's fine.
And I tried to explain this in words.
Okay, no, that's fine. But I don't want to have a rerun of the planning committee with the best one in the world. But thanks for that, Pat. Mike. Hello.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, sorry, a bit of lag. What was I going to say? Yeah, Elizabeth. Yeah, hands tied on planning committee. It comes with the territory, unfortunately. Yeah, that happens a lot, and we do have to do things that we don't always agree with because there is no legal recourse many times. On North Hart's development, North Hart's College development, yeah, I voted in favour of it because I believed in what they were trying to do, and I thought it was a way for the college to get some much needed refurbishment and infrastructure, and not only the college as well, but other schools in Hitchin. I think maybe it's not an issue for this committee, but you know, I don't want people to be angry at the college for doing this. In my view, they did what they had to do to get the money. Maybe they need to direct their anger as to why the college has got no money in the first place, and maybe that should be coming from somewhere else. And then the other part I was just going to say on building materials is that I think, yeah, you should be, please just follow up with the planning officer, maybe closer to the date. I'm sure they'll be able to help you out, in addition to what Sam said. Thanks.
Thanks for that. I think we can probably move on. I mean, I've got one other thing. I know some of us attended a meeting around Hitchin Initiative, which I know sort of Keith has been taking forward some work and working with others on. I don't know whether you're able to kind of give us a quick update about a sort of a Hitchin Initiative relaunch. Or anything you'd like to say for this meeting's benefit?
Yeah, sure, Ian, I can do. I mean, we're hoping to, as you say, relaunch Hitchin Initiative with a new structure, somewhat. I mean, the brief history is it was Hitchin Town Centre Initiative for its first 15 years of its life. And then when we were able to bring in a business improvement district, we dropped the town centre, and Hitchin Initiative just remained and did bits and pieces of work, but it sort of didn't have the same focus anymore once the bid was in. So we are just trying to refocus it, and there are lots of projects coming forward, and there are lots of people coming forward. So it's early days yet. The work that Hitchin Initiative can do in bringing together the private, the public sectors and the residents is acknowledged in the past, and we hope to restore that. And it will dovetail in nicely with the community panels that currently exist and the work that this committee does through town talk and surgeries.
Yep, that's great. Apologies, Paul. I forgot you got another item. Simon, was it on this one? Simon.
No, sorry, I'm shaking my head. No, it's a separate item.
Okay, right. So right. Okay. If nothing, Paul. I'll bring Paul in next.
Thank you. In answer to Sam's question, no, I don't know when the SPD for design's coming, because we're trying to work in some more robustness into the local plan on master plans, which the inspector is letting us do, which will make it even stronger. So at the moment, I need to find out where that is. The two items I wanted to bring forward were in regard, firstly, to the town hall. Actually, they're both the town hall when I think about it. The first at town hall, the sprung floor. I'm told the only reason the sprung floor does not work is because there is a rather large metal key missing. And as I trailed earlier, perhaps I've been watching the repair shop far too often. The things that can be done these days. Can we as a committee are seeking approval to ask either the estates management or the museum people to try and find out whether we can get a copy of this key? Sorry, Judy, it is a quick item. I'm putting it to sleep. To try and bring it back into use.
The lost key, but
Chairman, I should take that forward really, because Town Hall comes under my remit, so I'll ask the question.
Thank you.
And that was the chair, if I could just come in very briefly on that, that was the cause of my head in my hands, that I couldn't understand why Paul hadn't had this conversation with Keith rather than it becoming a Hitchin committee issue, like their ward colleagues and everything. Just get on with it. Just do it.
Hey, look, we like trivia at the Hitchin committee, so
just get on with it.
Yeah,
Judy, get the corn earbuds out for the next one. Then
did you have one other thing, Paul?
Yeah, it's promoting fair trade, and this might it might be Keith again. Some residents have approached me. They would like to see a greater prominence of fair trade being promoted at the museum, and they are willing, to pay for it. I'm happy to look into. I'll work with a ward colleague, Councillor Hoskins, to sort out what can be done.
Well, your other ward colleagues nodding away as well. So why don't the three of you just, as soon as lockdown's over, go and have a bloody cup of coffee?
I'm just going to leave it to the portfolio holders on this one and just giggle.
Colleagues, could you come through the chair, please? I don't want to get annoyed at this stage of the meeting. Saying, Councillor Bill and Councillor Collins, both shut up.
Okay.
I will call you in when it's appropriate to do so. Don't. Yep. Right, Councillor Hoskins.
Thank you, Ian. Before we degenerate any further, yes, this was a request that came through, and we in actual fact did put a fair trade sticker slap in the middle of the one of the front doors, so it's very clear that the museum stocks fair trade, as indeed the council does. It was one of the requirements of Hitchin becoming a fair trade town that a resolution was passed at full council, which it was, that in council premises fair trade products would be stocked. So I think we're making a bit of a storm in a teacup here, but I would welcome any proposal that comes forward, especially one that's going to be paid for.
And one of the items for discussion of one of our future meetings is about fair trade and our fair trade town status. So I'm looking hopefully to do that maybe at the next meeting or the one in June. Councillor Harwood.
Yes, at the risk of causing the wrath of Councillor Billing, just a sort of quick update. As you know, I'm the council's representative to Hitchin Band, and I thought it was just prudent. I've copied colleagues on an email, those colleagues that need to see it. After 150 years of representing the town, and according to the email I've got, being the only championship section brand in the three counties, they're looking to move into more permanent residence, so that they can undertake support and help and practice for the people, the musicians across the Hitchin area. And obviously I've been in touch with the estates looking at where we could house them and so forth. But I just wanted to alert colleagues that I think this is a commercial opportunity. The band are willing to either develop or pay for new residences. And I think it would be a great thing, based on our previous conversation about supporting the arts, to get behind. So I'm trying to move this forwards, but as Councillor Billing said earlier on, sometimes it's 2 steps forwards, 1 step back with a lot of these debates, and any support any colleagues can give me in helping the band locate some permanent premises for the next 150 years within the Hitchin area would be great.
Councillor, I can bring Councillor Hoskins. Keith, I think you might have a.
Yeah, it's again, it's part of my portfolio. We are very aware of this, of the conversation I've had with Simon. Indeed, I've had an email from Hitchin Band as well. It's something we're going to be looking very closely at because, of course, we have applicants. We have other community groups equally interested in finding premises in the town centre, and Simon's quite right. We should be doing all we can to support that. So it's on the agenda.
Good, thank you. Thanks, Keith. Are there any other reports anyone has got? Judy's shaking her head, so she clearly wants to go somewhere else. I've promised Councillor Houston that we would finish by 9 o'clock, so I need to keep to that. So that's fine. If items for discussion at future meetings, we've got obviously the air quality report. We will come back to Priory Fields. I mentioned fair trade. We also look to do a report around the food provision network that's been going on that we've funded, or the council's funded. And we've also looking at probably doing a report around mental health provision. And particularly there was one application that the panel looked at the other day about support to local sort of schools and students and so on, that we look potentially. That is another item that we'll come back to. Are there any other items for that, Mike?
Just thinking back to the town talk we had on the arts in Hitchin, and maybe seeing if we could make that an agenda item at one of the committees, sort of maybe some sort of report on the arts in Hitchin.
Yeah, yeah, no, that's very good. Yeah, we'll certainly can pick that up. Yeah, okay. Any other items anyone's got? Judy.
Thank you, Chair. And can I start by apologising unreservedly for my bad behaviour earlier in the meeting? But I do think, since I've been raising a large number of issues about the sorts of wicked issues that councillors get involved with constituents, which aren't just a matter of filling a pothole, mending a street light, but really quite complicated issues that you and I and Val know well, over things like takeaway restaurants where there's environmental health, there's parking enforcement, there's planning, and there's licensing. I think I've raised this with the Cabinet. I've raised it today with political liaison boards, but I do think that there are quite a lot of things that are quite town specific where we get involved in wicked issues. And I don't quite know what form it would take, but it would be quite useful to have a conversation about how we handle those things at Hitchin Committee, if nobody minded. And if people did mind and thought it would just be hugely boring, I will withdraw immediately, because I have a very low boredom threshold myself, as you know.
I agree. That's an excellent suggestion. Martin?
Yeah, I mean, I certainly agree with Judy that there are, if there's a way of bringing that up and reporting on it in a way that enables the committee to be able to be more effective, that would be really useful. And the thing I was going to mention, it may well come up through Tom's report from the bid in future, but I think it would be useful to have some sort of report back on recovery of Hitchin businesses and sort of actually prime Tom and possibly in Keith's area as well to have a report on how things are going on that.
Yep, no, that's a good. Yep, log that one down. And finally, we've got Simon.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, it's just to support what Councillor Billing said there, and just to inquire a little more. So obviously, you know, most of the quandaries I get myself into is this district council, private landowner, county council sort of triangle that we seem to dot between. Obviously, we have an ability to influence the district council, but I mean, do you think part of that conversation, obviously you're a county councillor yourself, but is part of that conversation how we can better interact as a Hitchin area committee with the county council, or is that just too unfathomably difficult at this point?
Let me bring Judy back. Do you want to just comment
well,
on that?
Only very briefly, that since time immemorial, the Hitchin Committee has invited all of its county councillors to be part of the committee in the sense of full speaking rights and debating rights and being at town talks. So we've done our best from that point of view. But it's certainly very difficult to get county officers to engage with pure district matters. So when I, as a county councillor, this is just an example, make a fuss and say it's really important that Val Bryant and Ian Albert are involved in a discussion about an important matter, which is a county matter but impinges on our lives as district councillors, I have to fight it every time. And it's getting better. People now know not to tell me that it's inappropriate to involve the district councillors, but it's been a battle for a long time, and it's one that all of the county councillors, and of course there aren't many of us, that's the problem, need to be dealing with. And there is this ridiculous imbalance that for every county division, there are either 5 or 6 district councillors, and yet all the matters which are county matters are supposed to be dealt with by one county councillor. So, you know, we might have walked away from local government reorganisation, but that doesn't mean that there aren't some pretty deep flaws with the structure we've got.
Thanks, Judy. Mike, did you want to come back on something?
Yeah, sorry, I was just based on what Judy was just saying, in terms of, you know, county officers dealing with some district matters. Just in some progress in this area, and something that was really useful at planning last week was when we had county highways officers attend the planning committee meeting to discuss some of the points that were raised, and obviously certainly highways and their opinion on the North Herts College development was extremely important and valuable, and it was good for them to come along and speak to that.
Thank you. Great. Well, I think that concludes our business for this evening. Thank you very much, everyone, for attending and your contributions. Most of your contributions. We look forward to seeing you all very soon.
Mike Hewson is raising his hand.
And we're 2 minutes late, Mike. So
I know I pushed the meeting to 11. No worries. Just a final point, and it's a shame Tom wasn't with us tonight, because I'm sure he would have raised this and spoke about all the wonderful things that are happening in Hitchin over Christmas, and you know, despite the current issues that we're having. But I think maybe I speak for a lot of people here when I would say thank you again to Ian for the lights on the Christmas tree. I know we had them last year, but the way it was highlighted this year was really nice. And I think a lot of residents really appreciated that as well, especially in these difficult times. So I just wanted to say, you know, thanks again for that, Ian.
Thank you, Mike. That's really appreciated. Thank you very much. Thanks, everyone, and have a great evening. And do go and enjoy the Christmas lights. Sadly to say, I've got to, since my daughter tested positive 2 hours ago, I've got to self-isolate for 2 weeks, so I won't be able to come and see the Christmas lights for a few days. But